about sports!
Well, good evening. I'm enjoying the sunshine of North Huntington. And I thought, since it's been raining in Pittsburgh for the last 70 days, I thought I'd let you enjoy the sun with me tonight. And we're honoring one of Fletch's great cars, the Honda Civic. One of your favorites, I know.
Well, it's no Avanti, but it's close.
It is close. Tonight we have Gary Buble Kin, Chris Rocketman, okay? Take that however you want, buddy.
I will, baby.
Fletcher. And I'm going with Dave Dino Finoli, one of my favorites.
I like that one.
Tonight we had a little technical difficulty so far. We were to have Gus Frerotte on, so we may cut off in the middle of this if we're able to fix our issues here and get him on. If not, we'll have him on another time.
We will.
So what we'll talk about, other than this just vast sunshine, and does it make it look like I have hair?
It's not a miracle, Dave. It's only sun.
It's not a miracle maker? All right.
Oh, what is that's a tuft. I see some.
See?
Very
getting
nice.
it there. I'll shine the front. All right. Well, we talked about last time the unwritten rules of baseball. And then they decided, let's show off, the home runs. Let's see just what effect juicing a baseball would do. So I believe they went in every locker room, gave a little shot of B12 into the baseball. If you believe Miguel Tejada, that's not illegal to get a shot of B12. And all of a sudden, baseball is giddy with itself because it has bastardized the home run to the point where these numbers aren't amazing anymore. 13 home runs a game is ridiculous. It's trying to make baseball the missile, the MISL. You remember that, fellas? The MISL.
Yes.
Where we tried to make soccer popular in the country by scoring 30 goals a game. Didn't do the trick. But on the other end, I have a Pittsburgh Spirit sock in my house. If I was there, I would show you right now. So I apologize for that. But it's ridiculous. We have 4 home runs in a row tonight, Fletch?
Well, it is Chris Archer, so, I mean, it's hard to tell whether it's the baseball or whether it's Chris Archer.
Yeah.
Well, that's certainly a good point there. But, I mean, we had this with Washington last week, back to back.
Yep.
Tying a record. And right now we're on pace to have 3 teams with over 300 homers. I believe the record is 267 by the Yankees last year. So it just tells me the wrong people are in charge of this game, and they need to fix this, and they need to fix this right. This whole "let the boys be boys" campaign is blowing up in everybody's face. With the fight du jour of the night, of course, the batter waits for the catcher to get in front of him, and then he pushes forward, so he doesn't have to go towards the pitcher. And then he walks up a little, then he finds the strongest man on the field, last night, Josh Bell. So he can rush when Josh Bell's there to hold him off. Lord knows I wish Josh Bell had let him go. Because something tells me Musgrove would have beat the absolute tar out of him.
I believe he would have. And at least he would have been suspended for doing something as opposed to just taking his glove off and glaring and looking menacing.
Yes, exactly. That's where the umpires are just out of control, taking control of a situation that, my God, he just clipped the bottom of his shirt, and then nobody did anything other than the little dance of hard asses that nobody wants to take a punch at. I just think last night was just the let boys be boys things in a nutshell. Enough with it. The game is fine. What you're doing now is destroying every aspect of the game. You're making it a pinball game. Get this guy as a joke. I thought Seelig was a joke. He's He's Myron Cope because I just started into a Myron Cope dissertation there. But it's ridiculous. It has to end. It has to end at some point. I mean, Fletch, what are you thinking with all this?
Well, apparently they didn't put those baseballs in the humidor that they have in Colorado to try to keep them flying in. But
somebody might hit one to Hawaii if they did.
Wow. I mean, it's crazy. It's just and then, of course, the officials will deny that they've done anything to the baseball. But come on, that thing is just flying out. And that's really, chicks may dig the long ball, but within reason. It's just it's a little bit too much. Now, it has me wondering, Josh Bell's tremendous start. How much is that is because of the baseball? How much is because he's really locked in? And that's the last thing you, as a sports league, you want to happen is second guessing the accomplishments, especially in a game like baseball that is so driven by the numbers. More than any other sport, I think, guys, is baseball is a numbers game that we remember numbers like 511, like 406. Like 56. Yep. I mean, all those numbers have meaning.
Yep.
Where football doesn't
no meaning
have
anymore.
that. Basketball doesn't have it. And hockey certainly doesn't have it. But it just I guess they're trying to be part of that whole video game culture where you buy the video games and you're putting up. My son and I played a hockey game from 5 or 6 years ago. And we have games where we're scoring 8 or 9 goals. Every time. And I don't think that's what we want for baseball. At least I don't. I don't know about you, Gary.
I mean, I just am amazed. Cap Anson said, I think it was in 1895 or something like that. After the AA folded up and they rolled it into the National League, and there were some owners that were really bad. Maybe a little bit later, moving players from Cleveland to St. Louis, and he said, baseball must be a great game to survive those who run it. And
he probably said something racist because we all know Cap did lead the league in racism.
I'm not seconding that I love the dude, but that comment's right on the money, and it continues to come back in the game. That's the thing that amazes me.
Yeah.
I mean, the attendance was pretty damn good in a lot of cities in the 70s when everybody played in the same stadium, particularly in the National League. Then we have, Camden Yards come along, and they did do something innovative. And I'm not saying these new stadiums aren't better in some regards, but they're also worse in some regards, like the one here. There's no foul territory. Yes, you're right on the action, but the games are forever long, and the damn left center field, right center field alley is a pop gun home run. So the game's not good enough that we figure out how to defend it and how to pitch in it. Let's make the ball as hard as a golf ball. I mean, there's been a couple players and pitchers this year that said they can't even grip it right because it's so damn hard. I mean, why can't the game just be good enough to sell itself? And I think what ends up happening here is I think the leadership's actually it may be a positive in the long run because teams piling up 300 home runs with this clown Dietrich hitting 44 or something like that. The media is going to start jumping on that and saying, this is kind of ridiculous. It may actually help to change some of the thinking about this 3-outcome baseball and the station-to-station baseball that we're seeing right now, if it continues at this ridiculous pace. So, I'm never a fan of, if something's existed as a professional enterprise since 1875 for all intents and purposes, why do you have to continue to tinker with it? I just don't understand that. Let the game itself and let the people in the game, whatever, make adjustments. Why did you have to do this? Did you really think that a lot of these guys popping these home runs and 3 straight and stuff like that was going to fix your attendance decline of 18%? You're out of your mind.
You have a pinhead in charge.
You're out of your mind.
He's not interested in the wellness of the game. He's interested in whatever he can do to bring in a generation of fans that, I'm sorry, they're not going to like this game. So you're not going to bring in any new fans. You're going to alienate the fans you already have. He's a disaster. This is all
Agreed.
A disaster.
Agreed.
I mean, I don't – people didn't like watching the MISL. because it was too much. All they wanted was 4 or 5 goals a game. They didn't want 30. All people want is to see a competitive game with some runs. They don't need to see 13 home runs in a game.
No.
Right.
I mean,
right.
And you take away the specialness of it. Guys belting 3 home runs in a row would be something you wouldn't see in a decade. Now we're going to see it 3 times or 3 times in a week. I mean, that's, as Chris said, it takes away the specialness of it. What you want, I mean, I never loved Jason Stark when he was here. I thought he was too interested in humor. But the one thing he used to write frequently was baseball is a great game. One night you'd have a 10-9. Next night you go out there, nobody can get any hits, and it's a 1-0 game with 4 base hits in it. That's what you want. I don't want who said the other day I don't want to eat chocolate ice cream every day with somebody in baseball. They're right. I mean, it's a little ridiculous now. And I think it makes the station to station baseball even worse. I hate to say it.
I agree with you 100%. I mean, I've talked about this before on the show. Just the game that we saw in the early 80s with the running game, with the powers to the gap, very exciting games. A lot of pressure on the pitchers, on the catchers to make sure that they're holding runners. A lot more strategy as far as that goes. And, Dave, you've talked a lot about how we have all of the statistics that are brought into this game now. All of the a lot of the hunches are taken out of the game.
Yep.
It's just it takes some of the joy out of it, and it's a shame because really, when you think about it, guys, what's the hardest thing to do in sports? It's to hit a baseball.
Hit a baseball.
You're trying to hit a round
consistently well. Yep.
With another round object, and you're trying to hit it square. That is, and if you miss by just this much, that's the difference between an out and a home run.
Pop up and a home run.
Yeah. And you think about, I mentioned Josh Bell a few minutes ago. I'm really thinking back to one of those home runs that he hit that it looked like he mishit the ball, and it still went out. And, granted, this is a strong man, no question about that. But that's not a ball that should have left the yard. And, I think we're seeing a lot of cheap home runs. And, can you make that adjustment midseason? What do you do? I'm just not sure.
I mean, I guess you could manufacture the baseballs differently, but then you have other questions arise. If it drops up precipitously, clearly the speculation is going to be bad that they were doing something in the first half. So you're lose-lose. They're not going to do it. You're lose-lose.
Do they think it's wrong? Do they think it's wrong? I don't think they do.
There's the big question right there. I mean, think about what was going on with the whole steroid thing with the great home run race with McGuire and Sosa. There's no doubt in my mind that they knew what was going on. No doubt. I mean, but it was okay because it brought some excitement, they thought, and consequences be damned. Now we're seeing something now where this has happened before, and fans remember it, and they're seeing this numbers game being affected by decisions made at the top, that it's not a lot of the stuff that's happening on the field, and that's where there's a problem.
I mean, the game had a ton of home runs hit over the last decade. And from a business standpoint, from an attention standpoint, from a TV standpoint, it was still suffering a little bit.
Right.
You thought this was the solution. Now, it looks like Gus is trying to sign in. Do you guys see that?
I've got
that other bottle.
I got the field study today.
Chris is going to get more fan mail.
Yes. Well, Gus, we could at least hear you. So welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. I'm just trying to – I don't know why it's not showing.
Trust me, guys, I work with Gus a lot, and he is a good-looking man. So we do want to see him.
We could use him.
They're better looking than Gary.
Well.
Oh, well, that's not hard to do.
That bar's low.
So, Gus, you are a Ford City Giant. And why don't you tell us a little about the recruiting process and how you ended up at Tulsa?
Yeah, so grew up in Ford City, was a Sabre, and it was it was a very small school. I graduated with 125 people, and my football team, my junior year we had 22 people. My senior year we had 19 people. Not a lot of kids played football, and it just really was a great experience. I played every sport I could, and I enjoyed sports tremendously. That was a huge part of my life. And then it was between playing baseball and football for me. And so it was baseball season. I went to a camp called Joe Butler Metro Index Football Camp. And there, the University of Tulsa had a coach there. From that point on, he started recruiting me. Other coaches started recruiting me. My first letter ever in high school was from the University from Michigan, and
Wow.
was really hoping to go there.
Wow.
They took another quarterback, and then they stopped recruiting me. And so then I moved on, and it was between Tulsa, Louisville, Kansas State, and Temple. And Coach Rader at Tulsa was a very good friend of mine after all those years, and came to my house twice and thoroughly enjoyed him. So that was why Coach Rader was the sole reason why I picked Tulsa over all the other schools.
That's great. And Gus, you spent 15 years in the NFL with 7 teams. How difficult was it for you to move between all those systems and really be able to master those playbooks?
That is difficult, but that was one of the things I was able to do. Obviously, they're not inventing new routes. They're all the same, but the language is different, and every coach has his own kind of iteration of how they call plays, what kind of playbooks they use, the system they came from. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 systems put together, what their favorite things are to do. And so I was able to go from a digit system with Norv Turner into then going to Detroit with Bobby Ross and Sylvester Crooms, and going into a similar system but different language. So it was my first step into a very similar digit system but different language for different things. And then completely switching and going to Denver and playing for Mike Shanahan and going into the West Coast offense. And so those 2 systems are kind of the strongholds of the NFL, and everything has come off of the West Coast and the digit system. So, one, you have the old 49ers, one, you have old Air Coryell, and everything has kind of come off of those in recent years from everything you see nowadays. There are getting some more of those RPOs and those run pass options, but I was not that kind of quarterback.
Well, you certainly played for some offensive geniuses. I mean, listening to that list that you just rattled off there.
Yeah, I played for some great people. Scott Linehan was incredible. I always enjoyed how he called plays. Jim Zorn was my quarterback coach when I was in Detroit. Gary Kubiak was my quarterback coach when I was in Denver. Then I went to Miami. Jason Garrett was my quarterback coach in Miami, and now he's the head coach of the Cowboys. I've had some great people surrounding me, and Kenny Anderson was my quarterback coach when I played for the Bengals. And it just – I've got to know some great people and played for some incredible coaches and got to pick their brains over time. It's just, for me, I always wanted to compete, and so I was never satisfied with being second.
So one other thing, Gus, I mean, you a lot of people probably don't realize you coached Ezekiel Elliott in high school. What kind of an athlete was he there, and do you miss coaching?
Well, to answer your first part, Zeke was an incredible athlete. I knew right away from watching him. He was kind of skinny in 9th grade. The school that I coached and where my children went and where Ezekiel went, I also coached another kid in the NFL right now, Foye Aluakon, who plays for the Atlanta Falcons. But school starts in 7th grade, so you get to see these kids grow up. And one thing about Ezekiel, his mom was a track star, his dad was a defensive end at Missouri, and so they pushed athletics on him. And I think him running hurdles and running track from the time he was little really helped him with his athleticism beyond his natural ability, just how to run, how to start. And then once we got a hold of him in high school, it was, hey, Zeke, we're going to get you the ball a few times. You score, and then let everybody else play. He was a great teammate. The kids loved him. And I knew I was going to be harder on Zeke than anybody, because if I can get him to toe the line, then everybody would follow suit. And, I do miss coaching. It was a lot of fun. I enjoy the kids. I enjoy teaching them things that they don't know that I can teach them, like probably any teacher does. And then it was a lot of fun. I got to coach my kids, and sometimes that wasn't great. Going out, and when you get to lead a team of, at Burroughs it was 28 kids, but when I came here to Central, it's 70 kids, and I wasn't the head coach, but when you get to go out and coach kids and make a difference and see them excel in the next level, it's a lot of fun.
Hey, Gus, why don't you tell us a little about what you're up to now with the Trib Radio?
Yeah, so right now with Trib, I've gotten to know Jennifer Bertetto really well, and with the Trib, and she's become a friend. And what I'm doing now, I started a podcast like you guys are doing. It's called Huddle Up with Gus, and I, try to relate stories of people's lives, that how sports shaped them and how they are today. And so I just had a CEO of NEP on. His name was Kevin Rabbit. He was a great guest, told us a lot of stories. He played basketball in Kansas, was an All-American in high school, went to Rice, fought his way to get to Rice, played against the Fab Five, had some incredible stories. And then now he's running one of the largest production companies in the world. They have 4,000 employees, and they're in 22 countries. And so we asked him what his greatest, what his most memorable venue was that he's ever been to, and he's been to them all. He said Wimbledon and the Masters by far.
Wow.
Interesting. Yeah.
Wow.
Interesting.
So we get to come on and tell people, share stories, probably because you guys are the same. I would guess that, the fan and local talk shows, they want to talk about current things. And sometimes you want to hear a story about how lives are changing and how people transition and how they got to where they are today, rather than, why Antonio Brown and Ben Roethlisberger are fighting.
Right.
We spent a lot of time talking about that, Gus. Trust me. Not the positive.
Wait, hey, the Raiders are going to be on Hard Knocks. It's going to be fun to watch.
Really?
Lucky for all.
It's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Gus, go ahead, Dave.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Dave.
Oh, you also do some things with Roberto 21 with Chris?
Yeah, so Chris and I are part of RC21X, and we, and the Roberto app, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been a crazy journey. It's been a lot of work, and we're really excited, hopefully, to take the next step to where we start really generating some revenue and really getting the word out about Roberto, because we all believe in the office that it's going to change the way people feel and think about their brain health. And we know that from everything that we've done over the years. And we really, our mission right now is to really get everybody else to believe and jump on ship with us. So I'm hoping that with Clarence pushing, he never stops and he just keeps going and going. And I'm hoping that we take it to the next level here soon.
Yeah, it sounds like an incredible job you guys do. I've looked through with what some of the things Chris has sent me, and it just sounds like something that's right for what's going on in professional sports now. And I mean, you playing it at the highest level, just imagining some of the things that and head injuries you had suffered. And I remember in high school, a coach throwing up, can you see how many fingers I have up? And when I said the right amount, he told me to get up and get back in the game. So it really has come a long way. And this just seems like the next. It
really has. And the great thing about it, you can look at it a whole nother way too, because you can look at it just from a performance standpoint. Do you have everything that it takes to be a great performer? Because if your brain isn't performing at a high level, and if you're missing one little part, then you're not going to be the performer you think you should be. I've seen a million guys come through the NFL, leave in training camp because they get cut, because they're missing a piece of the pie. You know, they can't remember the play, or their reaction time is bad, or they jump off sides all the time, or something like that. And so if you can understand where your brain performance is and then change those habits when you're younger, then it's going to give you a better chance later on in life. And it doesn't matter if it's in sports or in regular work or whatever it is.
Right. Well, Gus, thanks so much for coming on and joining us tonight. We certainly appreciate it, and remind people to tune into Huddle Up with Gus. I've seen a few of the shows. Gus, you're like Roy Firestone. I thought you were going to get Roberto Clemente Jr. to cry.
He almost did, Fletch. He almost did.
I thought he was going to go.
We had him.
So,
we tried to get.
When is the show uploaded?
That just wasn't happening.
When do you get a chance to listen to the new shows every week?
Yeah, thank you. So you can go to Trib Podcast Network. It's on there. So I appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us, Gus. It's nice to have somebody who's performed in one of the world's biggest stages, honestly.
Yeah, well, thank you. Don't drink.
We talk about it all the time, but we haven't done that. Well, at least all of us except Fletch.
Fletch stage or drink too much.
Fletch is on a whole nother different stage.
Well, they know you well, don't they, Fletch?
I've seen him on stages, but we won't go into that right now.
Gus, I have to ask you one thing, though.
Sure.
You hold a record that's, in some ways, will never be broken. 99-yard touchdown pass. Before you go, can you tell us about that, what you recall of it, briefly?
Yeah, I'm tied with 8 other people for that record. I think there's 4 runs, 5 passes, or vice versa. I'm not sure which way it goes, but that was a great day. We're playing the Bears, which is obviously a big rival for the Vikings. The Bears are driving. They're getting ready to score. They got the ball in the 5. They get down to the 3. Our defense holds them. It's 4th and 1 on the 1. Our defense has a goal line stand, and the coach calls a play that every quarterback is waiting for to be called, because you're like, all right, I can't get any deeper. Right. They probably think we're going to run it out of here. Let's just drop back and throw it deep. And so coach calls 999 F seam, which is all go basically in the West Coast system. And the Bears are playing cover 3, which cover 3 is 3 deep, and you're thinking you're never going to have a shot. Well, I drop back, and Peanut Tillman's playing my left corner, their right corner, and he's cheating. He's thinking I'm going to throw a seam route to Visante Shanko right down the seam on the left side. So I'm staring down Visante, and Peanut Tillman's cheating. And when I let it rip, I throw it about 45 yards down the sideline over his head, and Bernard Berrien's just rocketing down the sideline. And it might have been the best throw in 15 years of football for myself that I've ever had. And it was perfect. He never broke stride. It was 45 yards on the mark. He didn't have to go right or left. And it was just over in 2 seconds. And, it was just an incredible play. It was a turnaround. When they say it's a 14-point swing, that was a 14-point swing in a matter of seconds, and basically game over.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I have a great thing. What I did, that's just something that you're never going to break. And so I took a picture. I got our cameraman to get a picture. He took a picture of that behind, where he had like what do you call it when you see the whole field from behind? So
like a panoramic.
The ball in the air, all the fans in the bleachers, everything. And so had every single person on the field that was on the field at that time. So I got every guy to sign it, and I gave a framed photo of that play to every guy that was on the field with me at that time.
Nice.
That is awesome.
That's fantastic.
It was even if we wouldn't have got anywhere, we actually won our division that year, but it was just a memorable moment that, you'll have for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, thanks for sharing it with us.
Thanks for sharing it, Gus.
Thanks so much, Gus. And we'll be sure to tune on your show. Excited to.
All right. Well, check it out. Let me know what you think. Huddle Up with Gus. You can check any social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Huddle Up with Gus, and love to have you guys join us.
Fantastic.
All right. We would love to. Thanks so much, Gus.
Thank you, Gus.
We will now take a break for a short commercial.
The number 21 in Pittsburgh, to say it's unlucky is probably an understatement. Roberto Clemente, Michel Briere, and Archie Vaughan all died young, all men who wore the number 21. In fact, in Pittsburgh, only the Pittsburgh Steelers are the lone professional team in the area that can have a guy wearing 21, as it's retired with both other teams. And even a Steeler got shot wearing that number. I was lucky enough to write a book, this book Unlucky 21, that tells the 21 toughest tales of Pittsburgh sports in the history of the area, with 13 incredible authors, including my 2 esteemed co-hosts of Bitter Men on Sports. And it is an incredible collection of stories. It's part of our fabric, part of our history of sports in the area, and these are stories that are wonderfully told. You can get Unlucky 21 on Amazon, at Giant Eagle, at Barnes & Noble, at any local bookstore, and any online book retailer. All the author royalties will be donated to the Josh Gibson Foundation. Unlucky 21. If you haven't gotten it, get it.
All right, folks, welcome back from our break. I've made it inside from the Honda Civic into the luxurious confines of my office. So we are going to start with round 2 here. We're going to start out with Gary and an exciting week of combat sports.
All right. I guess, it's interesting. I wouldn't call it exciting, I'd call it interesting. Some ways the best fighter in the world might be Gennady Golovkin, which I'm sure you've all heard about, and anybody who follows boxing's heard about. He was out for 9 months after his controversial second loss to Canelo Alvarez. Came back and fought a fighter, a guy by the name of Steve Rolls, nobody had ever heard of. Rolls actually did okay for about 6 minutes, but after that, Golovkin just took him apart. So I think it was exactly what DAZN's not doing a lot differently, gentlemen, than most of the other promoters, even though they said they would. They basically got him a tune-up fight here. It was a glorified sparring match that was held in Madison Square Garden. I understand that at that level when you're out of action like that, but Golovkin's still an amazing fighter at 38, 380 wins in the amateur Russian career he had. He beat Alvarez twice, in my opinion, but he lost both times by the judges. Fight's a lot different live than it is sometimes on TV, but it was good to see him back, and he was a destroyer again. And I think the more interesting is coming up this weekend. I mean, Tyson Fury is a crazy man. His ego is just beyond outrageous, which we all know boxing has huge egos, but
he's good for the sport, correct?
He's very good for the sport. He's very good for the sport because he speaks well and he's entertaining, and he's learned to really tone down some of the obnoxious stuff he said a couple of years ago. He's fighting a guy this week. I can't say the same kind of feeling I had about Ruiz and Joshua because I've never seen this guy. By the name of Tom Schwartz. Nobody's ever seen him on American television. But because Fury's been out of action since his fight with Wilder, they're giving him a tune-up fight here to make sure that he doesn't lose. And he wins the fight on ESPN, and then him and Wilder are scheduled to fight, which I don't know how they're going to make that deal because Wilder's with Showtime and Fox because he's promoted by Al Heyman. But they say they have a signed deal to make a fight later this year, which was a very good heavyweight fight last December 1st, which I thought Fury won, and the judges called it a draw. So those would be the 2 biggest things I would say boxing-wise that happened. Last weekend there was a good UFC card, stacked from top to bottom, but 2 fighters, if anybody follows UFC, that's listening to us. Donald Cerrone, who's an American fighter, 36-11 coming in. Fought a guy who's probably one of the most athletic guys in the sport, a guy by the name of Tony Ferguson out of California. Ferguson had been out for a year. Cerrone was rolling. Everybody thought Cerrone would win. First round he did win. But then once Ferguson got going, which is what a lot of the smart money said, Ferguson basically was beating him up and was on his way to winning the fight before Cerrone did what no boxer should do and nobody in any combat sport should do. Got a broken nose, tried to blow the blood and create some air passages out of his nose and swelled his eye up, shut the doctor and stopped the fight. So it was a disappointing end to a fight that everybody was looking forward to.
You got to explain this to me, Gary. He blew his nose.
Yeah.
And his eye.
Boxing, when you're getting hit in the face, and particularly when you have a broken nose, a lot of fluid and blood pools in your sinus cavity. So you ought, if you haven't heard it, you will hear it sometimes in the corners when the trainer's there. They tell the fighter, "Don't blow your nose. just let the blood run out or let us work on it in the 1-minute mash unit in between rounds. Cerrone, I guess, had so much blood in his nose and he had so much other fluid from getting hit in the face a ton during the second round of that bout. He did try to blow some of the blood out of his nose, and within seconds, his eyes swelled up like a gargoyle shut.
Wow.
So he couldn't see after that. And even when you're using 4-ounce gloves and you're kicking people, you really can't have a guy continue with a shut eye. So that was the fight everybody was looking forward to. A lot of people who follow this, and it had to stop because Cerrone couldn't see anymore. And then the only other thing I'll say on the combat sports side is Henry Cejudo was the main event fighter. Very small guys, 135-pound guys, but guy had a decorated career as an Olympian wrestler, won a gold medal, and now he holds 2 different weight classes, featherweight and bantamweight in the UFC, which is really hard to do because that's the major leagues of that business. And he won on Saturday, and now he holds 2 belts. So he's only the 4th guy in UFC history to do that. He's an American, big personality. Probably something should be noted here if we're going to talk about combat sports. So,
all right. Anything interesting coming up this week?
I think the Fury fight's the most interesting thing to see how he looks.
Okay.
Because he's had some issues sometimes in between bouts, and you know, when he beat Vladimir Klitschko I guess it's about 3 years ago now. 3 years ago this past Thanksgiving. He looked like he was going to be a world beater. He looked like nobody could touch him because he's 6'9". He can really box and move. But then, he lost his mind. He gained a ton of weight. Said he was suffering from depression, taking drugs, everything else. He seems like he's in a pretty good mindset this time, but he's a guy that's hard to predict how he's going to look. So I think the whole boxing world just going to be watching to see how he looks there. Because
what's that going to be on?
I'm sorry?
What's that going to be on?
I think it's on at 10 o'clock on ESPN Plus, if I'm not mistaken. So 10 p.m. Yep.
All right.
Else big on the horizon. I mean, Pacquiao announced he's going to fight Keith Thurman, who's one of the best welterweights. They've done a little bit of the shit talking already. Pacquiao saying that he thinks he'll break Thurman. Thurman saying, well, Pacquiao's just old. The only reason he keeps getting these things is because of the money. I think Thurman will beat Pacquiao, but I think it'll be an entertaining fight. That's scheduled for July 20th. That's probably the biggest thing right now on the horizon. Although there's a couple fights at the end of June that I'll talk about as we get closer.
All right. Sounds good. Mr. Fletcher, in your Penguin glory.
Correct.
The first time I wore this was game 6. It was game 6 against the North Stars.
Oh, wow. It's that old.
And you're still fit. That's good. That's great. You're still in great shape, Fletcher.
As you recall, Dave, we spent that entire third period, me in California, you in Pittsburgh, talking about the franchise and just being stunned that they would ever win one, let alone now, being competitive like they have been for so long. So
I'm going to tell you, my friend, that is one of my most cherished sports moments.
Oh, same here. I figured with a game 7, it was time to pull this bad boy out.
There you go.
I was at Patty's house, at her parents' house. It was Memorial Day weekend, I think.
Yeah.
I think it was a Thursday or Friday before Memorial Day weekend. And even though her father and her brother weren't particularly big hockey fans, we just kind of sat there stunned, because they blew them out too.
Wow.
And then my brother-in-law went down with some of his friends. He was a teenager, and he said that the South Side was just pandemonium.
Yeah.
He couldn't get through it. So I won't forget that either. I mean, does it seem like 2 years ago now that Crosby or rather Hornquist got that goal, bounced it off Rene? How quickly did that 2 years go?
That did.
Wow.
I mean, think about it. That's 2 years ago. That's 2 years ago this week.
Yep.
And think about this. I mean, that was the only back-to-back in the salary cap years.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
That I think sometimes we lose sight of. But one thing that we aren't losing sight of, fellas, the Bucks are looking more likely to be sellers than buyers these days.
Yeah.
And one area that seems to be getting a lot of attention, according to Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic, is outfield. The team has a glut. You have rookie Brian Reynolds, he's really earned up some more time in the lineup. You have Starling Marte, who's really starting to hit the ball. And then you have your options. Gregory Polanco started the season on the injured list. I'm sorry, the disabled list. Forgot who you were talking to.
Please.
Right.
And he's not looking like he'll ever regain that arm strength that he once had. Not that he had a great arm in the first place, but then you also have 15-year vet Melky Cabrera, who the team brought in because of Polanco's injury. And then there's last year's Gold Glover Corey Dickerson, who's been limited to. Prior to this week, he only played 6 games. So, but here's the thing: Rosenthal says that teams are interested in Cabrera, but the Bucks are reportedly more in favor of Trey Dickerson, and I think it's a bad idea. He's not had enough playing time this year to earn any kind of a significant return, and you got to think that the Pirates would have to eat some of his salary. What is it, like $8 million a year for him?
Yeah.
Cabrera is a bargain. $1.15 million, and the thing he's very appealing to contenders as an outfield option on a cheap salary. And he made the Pirates out of spring training, and he's put together a pretty solid comeback season.
Yep.
4 homers, 22 RBIs, not too bad. But the Pirates' desire to move Dickerson or possibly Cabrera, it's the one thing that's good out of this is that Brian Reynolds has really cemented his starting job with a breakout season at the plate.
Absolutely.
The Pirates are 7.5, 8.5 out of first place. That's a very competitive NL Central. Team hasn't decided yet whether it'd like to make one last push towards contention. But guys, I'm feeling like the sell-off is about to happen, and hopefully they're going to do this so that they get some value for it. And each day that goes by, that Archer trade looks worse.
Well, do you not just, at this point, you're not going to get a lot for Dickerson. Let's face it. I mean, they want to push him for one reason, and that's to get rid of some money. You're not going to get a lot for Melky Cabrera. If you're going to do this, is it time just to strip down the damn thing, trade Marte for some top-notch prospects, or even entertain maybe looking at Polanco going? Although he's damaged, I don't think you're going to get a lot for him.
Well, here's the other thing. You shut down Polanco because he's just – I don't know that he's right. He's still not right yet, and he's definitely not right in the field. I mean,
no, he's not.
If he were hitting better, if he were hitting more than 240, you take that lollipop arm in the outfield and you allow the other teams to take an extra base. But I don't think his hitting is warranted in staying around.
I would tend to agree.
I don't know what you did.
Absolutely. But an even more perplexing question is, why is Michael J. Fox wearing a Bruins hat?
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's Canadian, isn't he?
He's Canadian.
Yeah, I don't know. That's weird. Yeah,
Canadian.
I didn't see that. I just went back and looked at it here.
But
let me ask you guys this. I don't get to see them as much as you guys, the Bucks. I mean, I get to see them. I didn't buy the package, and I'm changing some of my television equipment and stuff around, so I don't have it. I get to see them on their national TV, ESPN or FS1. I mean, is this Archer's head now, or is he throwing a ball 87 miles an hour? Because, I mean, this is starting to get pretty frightening.
It's not velocity, Gary. It's location.
So he's just trying to throw it by everybody again, too. Right?
He's not getting the corner calls that maybe he got in the past.
Okay.
Or, quite frankly, he's probably missing the corners versus what he did in the past. And he's grooving them down the middle when he gets in trouble then.
And, I mean, you're not going to be able to do that in today's baseball especially. So, I mean, I think they're going to have to make a sellout, too, because Lyles is now out, right, for a while.
Yeah.
He's got some injuries in a rotation, so it's going to be hard to gain ground.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. I mean, at this point, if you're going to do it, do it. I mean, Marte and Vasquez are the only two guys you're going to be able to get enough of a return on to make it worth it. So, are we going to go in mediocrity at best the next few years? I don't think we don't have a farm system like we did in the past where we could, plug in the options when needed. I mean, the only real gun we have right now, it would be Brian Hayes. And, I'm not sure his bat is ready for the major leagues at this point.
Well, here's the thing, too. You completely mismanaged that outfield at one point, remember we were talking about this being the best outfield in all of baseball.
Right.
And the choices that you made, Meadows looks like he's setting the world on fire there.
Yeah.
Polanco, you saluted them at first for trying to lock him up early, but maybe it was just too early that they locked him up.
Yeah. And maybe locking him up, you've seen it many times before. Kind of takes, not saying it happened to him, but it kind of takes a desire out of some. And let's face it, to be a high major league caliber, you've got to be on a high level. And you relax a little bit, and you don't give the same intensity. We've seen it happen hundreds of times before. And sometimes that's what it appears to be with the two of them.
I think he's going to be there, though, because I think Fletch hit the nail on the head of what I've seen. I guess, Dave, you said it too. He's just not back from this injury yet. He can't throw. Swing looks a little funky, too. He's kind of inconsistent. Like, I don't think he's going to bring you much. It's going to have to be –
No, he's not going to bring you much.
Yeah, it's going to have to be –
No, but I wonder if it's just worth shutting him down.
Why not?
If you fall out of it, why not?
Everybody gets shut down for a broken pinky on the pitching staff, pinky nail. So why not shut a guy who probably needs to be shut down? Plus, you have depth there.
Right.
I mean, I don't mean to be critical of Pittsburgh or the Pirates, but I mean, is it going to matter if he's not in there and they're 7 or 8 games behind? Those games in July or August, same amount of people is going to come out anyway. On a weekend, Friday, Saturday, when they have fireworks. I mean, what's the difference? Like, it's not going to. Why not? I mean, I would vote for shutting them down.
Yeah,
I mean, 3 other guys. Cabrera probably will stay there because of his money. Like to continue to see more Reynolds. Well, they were talking about him during the college playoffs, how good of a player he was at Tennessee, which I didn't realize.
If you ever get to the point where you have a pitching staff that's not going to give up double digits a game, maybe you start making serious decisions. But at this point, what the hell does it matter? You're not going to win games with this pitching staff.
It's been a weird year. They were great in the first month of 6 weeks.
Well,
they started piling up.
They're all injured. But
I just hope you keep Vasquez, because that's a hell of a closer you have there. But if you're not winning, if you're not engaged,
what good is it to you?
Exactly. They're not getting to him. And plus, who's going to it? It gets to the point where you're either trading guys to lose salary, and you don't care about the return, which is basically what you're doing by trading Dickerson and or Cabrera, or you try to rebuild the team. And Myron Cope always said, and one of the smartest things he always said, sometimes you have to hit rock bottom before you can.
Of course, especially when you have this many franchises too. I mean, you got so many franchises. I mean, it could be the other way. It could go the way the Tampa deal went. Vasquez could go somewhere, and if that front office sounds like you guys are mixed on, but if they're doing their scouting, you could pick up 2 guys that can really help you. I mean, to me, Diaz, I think, deserves a chance to play, even if Cervelli comes back. I don't care how popular Cervelli is. At the end of his career, Diaz should play every day. Cervelli catch a little bit. Doesn't like it too bad. Kong was another huge mistake. Goodbye. If they can buy him out, just fill that roster spot with somebody else who can play. It hasn't had the history. He's hitting 179 or something, right? So, I mean, goodbye. They talked about Newman and Kramer and these guys, and then they gave the job was won by another guy. So, again, I'd like to see, can these guys play at all? Can they catch the ball at all? I mean, I would turn it around and plan for the future. But, this Vasquez deal could work the way that the Archer one did. I'm not saying he's going to be giving up as many home runs as Archer, or as bad, but you could get 2 guys that could really help you down the road. And the time to do it's probably sooner. I wouldn't wait till the damn deadline either. These GMs drive me crazy. Wait until the day before, and you don't get a decent deal. Start working for ahead of time.
The other part too, Gary, is that they can get all the prospects they want. The problem that this franchise has had has been in development.
Yep.
I mean, they've not been. They have a lot of quad A players, in my opinion, right now, because they've not.
Yep.
I mean, you look at some of the adjustments that were made with Meadows, and also with Glasnow once they left the organization.
Yep.
I mean, Glasnow kind of a different case because he's that tall, lanky pitcher whose mechanics were always a problem. So you get to Tampa and you have a pitching coach who really specializes in people who are tall like that, and so that helped him. But Meadows has really taken off, and
he doesn't look much different to me. He's healthier. He doesn't look much different, but he clearly is.
Well, I don't. I mean, probably haven't done a stellar job with everyday players, but they've done an okay job with that. Where the development issues have happened is on the mound. You look back and you look at pitchers they have had that are theirs in the minor league system, and we've talked about this before. I don't even put Cole as one that they succeeded with because he had one good year.
1 year.
Yeah. And he stumped the rest of them.
Yep. Yep.
I think Meadows would have been just as good here. I don't think he's a 360 lifetime hitter. I think he's probably a 290, 295.
Right.
Who had a good start.
He's a solid player.
But he'd be a solid player. I mean, I think he'd be that here. I don't think Glasnow would be that here. But regardless, at least they keep the conversation going. Might not be a positive conversation, but it is a conversation. At
least they're not running up the score on people,
Well, you know what? I'm gonna applaud our lovely girls who have run up the score on Thailand in the World Cup. Because here's the thing: you got a few games in the round. I think you have 3 games in the round, and one of the tiebreakers is goal differential. So right now you put yourself in a position where you're pretty much going to the next round. I mean, what are you going to do? I remember having this conversation. It might have been with you, Fletch, when Jack Pardee coached the University of Houston with Andre Ware as the quarterback. People would get so irritated. He'd pull Ware out, but this is his offense. And the second team was as good as the first team. What are you going to do? I mean, they scored 10 goals in the second half. Is it the point where you want to kick the ball into the stands every time because Thailand's that bad? No. You score goals. You do what they did. They were having a once-in-a-lifetime game. There's never been a game like that in the World Cup, either men's or women's. So it's the kind of thing, you have fun with. I mean, not their fault Thailand sucks. They qualified to get in the World Cup. And, I've never seen anything like that in my life in an event this big. I mean, they're not a bad team. They just got kicked by the best team in the world. And I don't have a problem with what they did. Alex Morgan, 5 goals, 3 assists. I mean, that's Mario Lemieux numbers in soccer.
Yeah.
I mean, God bless them. I'm all for it. I think people are going way overboard in the criticism. I think they're bored. I think they don't understand the greatness of what they saw yesterday. This was a once in a lifetime performance. This was a you'll remember where you were kind of performance if you watched it, because you're never going to see it again.
It was the Russian hockey team. That's what it was.
Exactly. I mean, it was a beautiful performance. It really was. I mean, if you make the World Cup at this level, you might not be in the League of the United States, but you're not a horrendous team that's going to lose 13-0. So, again, this is the pious, oh my God, I live a perfect life. Damn you people that make fun and enjoy your sport. Damn you.
I mean, it's just my view, Dave, again, it's the same old story with this silliness. These are fairly young women playing in this World Cup tournament. They've been practicing, I don't know, you tell me. You know much more about the sport than I do. They've probably been practicing a team for, 3 months for this tournament?
Sure.
Thinking about nothing else, talking about nothing else, spending all this time together.
Yeah.
Doing against a team that, although obviously they put them in the World Cup for some reason, but they're clearly overmatched. What do you expect them to do? Not run hard? Pass the ball in the center of the field? I mean, it's competition.
Yeah.
If you can't deal with getting whipped in competition, then take your sissified kids and go watch something else.
I mean,
Okay, go watch movies or whatever. I mean, I know it sounds like Fletcher's going to tease me about being bitter, but I mean, my God, it's the first game after a bunch of young women have been together for 3 months, getting ready for this tournament against an overmatched opponent. I mean, what do you expect could happen?
They did what they're supposed to do.
That's exactly right. And all these people who everything's got to be so touchy and it's competition. And competition, sometimes you're going to get whipped.
Kick the ass right now. I see that St. Louis has gone up 3-0, and I'm expecting people to criticize because they celebrated scoring 3 times as many goals as Boston. So.
That probably seals it, though. That probably seals the deal. The stunning end to a stunning season, really.
Absolutely. Well, Mr. Fletcher, what's your prediction of the week?
Well, let me start by praising the Golden State Warriors.
First off, you don't get to say the St. Louis Blues will win the Stanley Cup.
I was going to say that one.
But go ahead, Fletch. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think I would have been right.
Hey, at least I thought it was going to 7.
Yeah, you did.
You did. And I think I felt that it was going to be a long series, even though one of the strangest series ever with the dominant performances, each team with 2 of them. What a weird series this was.
What's your Warrior prediction, Fletcher?
Yep.
So, you're down 3-2, despite Kevin Durant missing most of the series and then finally going down with that pretty gruesome Achilles injury in the second quarter of Game 5. Thanks to Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and some pretty remarkable three-point shooting, they managed to hold off a furious Toronto charge for a thrilling 1-point victory to keep the series going. But here's the thing, guys. I don't think they can hit that many threes. It just seems unlikely to go 20 out of 42 again. I mean, that's popping from the outside.
Yeah.
As Coach Costanza said, they were a bunch of chuckers, Dave. They were chuckers.
Chuckers, exactly. I love it.
So for me, it's going to come down to the performance of one player, and that's DeMarcus Cousins. He has to be a two-way player. The Warriors are a bit hobbled, so he needs to step up his game. He can also be a presence in the post and sort of slow that tempo down a little bit. That's going to help them a little bit. So if he's up to the challenge, we head to Game 7. If he isn't, Toronto wins in 6.
All right. There we go. Mr. Gary.
I won't say I think the Blues are going to win the Stanley Cup.
The man is shaking. I guess in the St. Louis arena right now, they're showing the game.
Yeah.
And the guy was having about a half-inch vertical leap, and you could see the belly shaking on national TV. Remember this victory always. Go ahead, Gary.
I don't have a huge prediction of the week. I think. I guess if I had to predict something, the only thing I could really come up with today was I expect that Fury will win. He's not a knockout guy. I think it'll be kind of a dull fight, but I think his press conference will be more entertaining than the fight. That would be my prediction because there's not a hell of a lot of – I was going to say something about the basketball, but I think Toronto is going to win the series, but I'm not sure if they're going to win it in 6 or 7 games. To me, Fletch, the second your point about the Golden State Warriors, as good as they've been, and even in that series where Cleveland came back and won, they never quite faced that kind of situation.
No,
the guys busted up and that kind and I thought, all the criticism Curry can take sometimes, people just have that, angle for you when you're a star like that. It's not really a prediction, but I was impressed by the fact that where they did hang in there, they made some big shots, and they won a game that, quite frankly, I don't think a lot of people expected they would the way that series was going. So in a way, that just shows how great they are, some of those guys, and Kerr and everything else. It was a shame to see what happened to Durant, and the media's complaining about that now too. Like, they didn't care about the guy, they weren't protecting him. I'm sure they didn't force him in there. I'm sure he decided to try to get in there too.
He's a professional, fellas.
Right. And you paid a lot of money.
You had to be a big shot, didn't you?
What's that?
You had to be a big shot, didn't you?
Wow.
Yeah.
So here's the other thing, guys, that there's a lot of criticism of Toronto fans applauding his injury. Guys, if you know Canadian people, they were not applauding the injury. They were trying to give him support. The Canadian people, 19 people in the goddamn world, they are not cheering an injury.
No.
Whoever thought that was going on, they're out of their mind.
Out of the minds. They gave him some Tim Hortons donuts as he got to the locker room in honor. But
I thought the media made too big a deal out of that too, and I didn't like Cousins' response. There was, I guess, you're asking guys in a pressure pack series that stuff. So Cousins' response wasn't too bad, but I think he misinterpreted it too, honestly.
Yeah. Here's the thing: Canadians are genuine people, and I'm going to tell you, they're going to be the inspiration for my prediction of the week, because you know what happens tomorrow.
What happens tomorrow, Dave?
The Canadian Football League begins.
Oh, you know what? I did see that.
Football, my friends, at Tim Horton Field in Hamilton, Ontario.
Playing Saskatchewan. I saw that.
In Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
With my favorite quarterback, Jeremy Mazzoli, who I know he's one of yours, Fletch. I remember you having his jersey. I'm surprised you didn't wear it tonight. But I'm going to predict.
I'm just hoping the battery on my phone holds out to the end of this show. It's getting a little dark.
We're getting close to it.
Okay, we're almost done, man. I'm going to bring us home. Hamilton is going to beat Saskatchewan 33-1 to celebrate the fact you could score 1 point in Canadian football.
Yeah.
They'll be up 21-0 at the time when they cut the lead to 20 points. All right.
I love Canadian football, though. I do watch it. I love that. I love
watching it.
Football. I love it.
Going to get myself a Labatt's. Tim Hortons now in the North Hills, I hear. I'm going to drive up there and get some donuts.
Wow. It's interesting.
I even have a Hamilton tie cat. Why didn't I wear it tonight?
I don't know.
I don't know.
A lot of chances. Season's just starting, Dave. Got 16. They play 16 games too, right?
18, Gare.
18. I'm sorry. That's right. 18. So we have till Thanksgiving, Dave.
All right. I'm going to be excited for this. But that's where I'll be. I know you'll be watching the new Dynasty tomorrow night, Fletch.
All I know, Dave, it's getting dark. It's getting dark, fellas. I feel like
it is getting dark.
All right.
Hello.
Well, thank you to our guest, Gus Frerotte, tonight.
Absolutely.
And certainly looking forward to his show. And can you see us there, Fletch?
I'm dying, fellas. I'm dying.
Have another beer, Fletch.
What is the beer tonight before we go, Fletch?
Tonight is I don't know if you can see it, it's the Penn Brewery Refreshing Session IPA.
We'll bring it on.
Fan mail regarding it, Fletch, or no?
No, I'm looking for the endorsement deal, though, fellas. The Joe's Brewery people, they need to step up.
All right, my friend. You have yourself a wonderful evening. We'll meet back here again next week.
Sounds good. All right, gentlemen.